My friend James and I, both 42 years old males, have known each other since third grade. He's always been a bigger guy. I've always been a bit leaner until recently. In our late 30s, I put on about 40 pounds to now be around 270. James put on weight as well and is in the 325 range. We're both taller guys, but still too heavy for either of us. Over the years, we both tried dieting in different forms as both of our wives are supportive and would like to join us and lose weight as well. After watching a few "Where Does Your Meat Come From" type documentaries, not preaching, I promise, my wife and I decided to try switching to a plant-based diet. We're not vegan, we still eat cheese sparingly and skim milk on occasion. But neither of us have eaten any meat whatsoever in 8 weeks. I'm down 31 pounds. My wife is down almost 24 pounds. So I see my buddy about a month ago when I was down 10, 15 pounds and he says, I look great, and what am I doing differently? I tell him we're trying a plant-based diet, and before I could get too deep into any explanation, he kind of cuts me short, laughs, says this is all BS, and don't start bragging around his wife as he'll never give up meat. Okay, terrific, I wasn't planning to. And also you asked me, I didn't even bring it up right now, but we leave it there. Last night we were all at another friend's house for dinner and drinks, and our host mentions my wife and I look terrific, and my wife brings up what we're doing. Despite it being received positively by everyone else with well wishes, my buddy gets all pissed off and starts openly announcing eating meat is a vital necessity to every diet, starts calling me a soy boy, LOL, and looks at his wife and says, don't even consider it, it's never happening. He tells everyone the only reason we're losing weight is because we're clearly starving ourselves and anyone could get the same results on any diet doing the same, to which my reply was, we've tried other diets without results, you know this. Maybe if you pulled your head out of your ace/, for a minute, you'd see I'm not trying to recruit you for anything, and your facts are wrong. There are entire regions of the world that don't eat meat, dairy, and are much healthier than Americans as a whole. But by all means, keep on the heavy carb red meat diet and let us all know when you hit 400. This was a frustrating event because I don't initiate this conversation with anyone for fear of exactly this happening. Eating meat or not eating meat triggers something in people. Regardless, my friend went to the bathroom and a couple of minutes later excused himself and he and his wife left. The dinner was fine after. The other couples all felt like he attacked us unprovoked, but he's a longtime friend. I'm 100% confident our friendship will survive this, but I still need to know if I apologize for my half of the incident, regardless of what was said in his half. Was I the AH for how I handled it? ETA. Some people are hesitant about posting regarding food or diets. I was too. Look at the comments here. 2 out of every 3 people are screaming at me that I'm forcing a plant-based diet on others. At no point did I ever say plant-based is the only way to go to lose weight. What I did say was, with my wife and I, we tried other calorie-deficient diets to lose weight and had no results. After almost 2 months of no carb beers at night, no glazed donuts for breakfast, no Italian subs for lunch, I mentioned to my doctor and he simply told me that in some people their bodies go into an efficiency mode to preserve calories as it recognizes changes are happening. Plant-based is working wonders for us where other diets did not. I'm happy others had results with other diets. We did not, but the Reddit hive mind has decided I'm either wrong, lying, or was cheating on previous diets. These results, as I've presented, couldn't possibly be correct. They know more about my body than I. To the many people who've DM'd me about how triggered meat consumers get over plant diets, I appreciate you reaching out, and I'm sorry you didn't feel comfortable commenting openly. Regarding my friend, I called him and apologized last night. He responded with the same. We both said some shitty things and agreed we were both way out of line. We're meeting for a beer tomorrow. All is well. Thank you to all who read and contributed. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm a guy who lost 100 or pounds, and I can tell you that I got a wide range of responses. In general, people told me how great I looked and were incredibly positive. The only people who weren't were other overweight friends of mine who never lost an opportunity to make a negative comment. Usually it was along the lines of you'll gain it all back or something like that. At a certain point, I realized that weight loss takes a lot of effort and discipline and real lifestyle changes, and that people who are looking for an easy fix are not going to get the results they want. Mixing in a salad once a week is not going to cut it. It requires many hours of exercise and a completely different relationship with food. The people who were making negative comments had all tried to lose weight in the past and failed and just weren't convinced that it was possible for them. Comment 2. Not the idiot. When I went plant-based, I lost an entire Backstreet Boy. I am not vegetarian. I do eat poultry at times, but no red meat and limited dairy. I do not go to the gym, but I do walk and hike with my dogs every day. The best part has been how easy it has been to keep it off, whereas with other weight loss attempts I eventually regained. I firmly believe it's the sugar. Eating primarily plant-based, eliminated processed and sugary foods right off the bat. And I'll be honest, the first month was rough. Sugar addiction is real. But once you get over the hump and realize how good you can feel, you don't know what you don't know, it becomes second nature. Now for the update, thanks for tuning in again. So things took a turn since I last updated you. Remember how James and I had that blow up over the whole plant-based diet thing? Well, it didn't just end with an apology and a beer. It got worse, much worse. A week after our makeup, James's wife, let's call her Sarah, reached out to my wife in secret. She confessed she was worried about James's health and was impressed by our weight loss. She wanted to try the plant-based diet but was scared of James's reaction. My wife, being the supportive friend she is, offered to help her with meal plans and recipes. Sarah started the diet without telling James. She was sneaking veggies into his meals, making meatless dinners, and he didn't even notice. Or so we thought. She lost 10 pounds in 2 weeks, and that's when the bomb dropped. James found a stash of plant-based cookbooks and confronted Sarah. He was furious, feeling betrayed and lied to. He stormed over to our place, accusing us of meddling in his marriage, saying we turned his wife against him. I tried to calm him down, but he wouldn't have it. He left, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell and shattered. The next day I found out James had been let go from his job. The stress of everything must have been too much, and his performance had tanked. He blamed us, said our diet crusade had cost him his job. It was a mess. Sarah was now caught between improving her health and her crumbling marriage. She chose her marriage. She stopped the plant-based diet and went back to their old eating habits. It was heartbreaking to watch, especially since she had been doing so well. But meanwhile, my wife and I were dealing with our own issues. The tension with James put a strain on our relationship. We argued about whether we should have gotten involved or if we were too pushy with our lifestyle. It was a rough patch to say the least. Then the worst happened. James had a health scare, a minor heart attack. It was a wake-up call for everyone. He survived, thank God, but it was a close call. The doctors said he needed to make serious changes, or next time he might not be so lucky. James finally came around to the idea of changing his diet, but the damage was done. Sarah was resentful, feeling like she'd been forced to choose between her health and her husband, and now she was back to square one. My wife and I felt guilty, wondering if we could have handled things differently. In the end, James and Sarah started the plant-based diet together, but their relationship was strained. They're working on it, but it's going to be a long road to recovery, both physically and emotionally. As for my wife and I, we're still plant-based and healthier than ever, but the joy of our success is tainted by the fallout with our friends. We learned the hard way that sometimes trying to help can backfire, and the consequences can be severe. Thanks for reading. My ex-wife denied my kids the chance to say goodbye to their grandfather. So I fought back and won more custody time. Long-time lurker reader, first-time poster. Throwaway account, I, 41-year-old male, have 2 kids, 14-year-old male and 16-year-old female, with my ex, Tammy, 37-year-old female. And according to the divorce decree, neither one of us can take the kids out of state without prior written consent from the other. This was fine for the most part, as neither Tammy nor I had any desire to go through any more hassle of co-parenting than we already do. However, my father recently passed away. It wasn't a shock because he was sick for a long time, so while I was sad he was gone, I was also relieved he wasn't suffering anymore. About 50 years ago, my father came to America, got an education, and made something of himself but always missed his home country. When it was determined that there was nothing more that could be done for him, my father wanted to spend his last year in his home country. My sister happily obliged my father's wishes and quit her job to go with him and help with his care. My brother, other sister, and I also took at least one trip over to see him. Then the holidays came around and my father really wanted to see all of his grandchildren together one last time. My brother and other sister were able to bring their kids over, but when I brought this up to Tammy 3 months ago, she said she'd think about it. I gave her as much time as I could, but flights overseas during the holidays were expensive. So when I asked her again, Tammy said she needed more time. I asked how much more time did she need, and that led to a fight, and Tammy ended up saying she wouldn't agree. She also got to my kids and said that they didn't want to go either, citing that they didn't speak the language and how they shouldn't have to be inconvenienced just because their grandfather decided to leave the country. I was upset, but let it go, and I could tell my dad was a little hurt that the kids didn't come. He tried to video chat them twice but got no response. We had one final dinner together where my dad made a speech about how grateful he was for his family and discussed his will. Aside from my sister who took care of him, the majority of his financial estate would go to his grandkids, and he would be leaving the rest of us sentimental things, which we were all cool with. He passed a few weeks later, and at the reading of the will, my brother and other sister's kids got a decent-sized trust fund, whereas my kids weren't mentioned at all. I did bring this up once, and my sister said our dad was really hurt that he wasn't worth a video call in his final moments, and only opted to leave them sentimental items. When my kids found out, they were furious, and Tammy demanded that I sue my sister and/or my nieces and nephews, but I refused. My kids see this as me putting someone else before them, as well as punishing them for not agreeing to go. But I don't see it that way. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, it sounds like it was important to your father to be surrounded by the people he cared about, and who cared about him. Yes, your kids are too young to have enacted the decision to travel to see him again at parents' wishes, but as you note, they showed little interest in going or even connecting with your dad by video chat. Your kids' views on this lack of inheritance sound like they come from their mother, just like their lack of desire to take the trip did. They're old enough for you to have a conversation with them too. You lost a parent, and it isn't the time to be fighting about money that you don't care about. Not the idiot. Comment 2, not the idiot. A will isn't about fairness. Never has been. I'm not much for "I told you so," but you've got a pretty great one to lay down on your ex. Also note, lawsuits are going to go nowhere, and the only people who will get paid will be the lawyers. Let your ex tilt at that windmill if you want. Now for the update, thanks for the support on my last post. So after the whole mess with the will, things just spiraled. My kids were still mad, and Tammy was on a warpath. She started bad-mouthing my family to anyone who would listen, saying they were punishing the kids for her decision. It was a mess, and I was stuck in the middle, trying to keep the peace. Then out of nowhere, my brother calls me. He's found some old letters from my dad, stuff he wrote when he first came to America. They were full of hope and love for his new home, but also a lot of loneliness. My brother thought it might help the kids understand where our dad was coming from, why it was so important for him to go back to his home country in his last days. I decided to show the letters to my kids. My son, he's a bit like me, more on the quiet side. He read them and didn't say much. But my daughter, she's got a fire in her, and she got really quiet after reading them. That's how I knew they hit her hard. A few days later, my daughter comes to me and says she wants to talk to my sister, the one who took care of our dad. I was surprised, but I set it up. They talked for hours. Turns out my sister had a lot to say about those last months with our dad, how much he missed the kids, how he'd watch old videos of them over and over. After that talk, my daughter did something I never expected. She went to Tammy and told her she was wrong for keeping them from seeing our dad. They had a huge fight, and my daughter ended up staying with me for a while. My son, he's still torn, but he's starting to come around too, asking more about our dad's life. But just when I thought we might be getting to a better place, Tammy pulls a fast one. She files for full custody, saying I'm poisoning the kids against her. It was a low blow, and it hit me hard. I had to get a lawyer, go to court, the whole 9 yards. The court day was tense. Tammy was there with her lawyer, all business. I had my kids with me, and they were a mess, not sure what to think. The judge listened to both sides, asked the kids what they wanted. My daughter, she stood up and said she wanted to stay with me, that she didn't like what her mom had done. My son, he was quieter, but he said he wanted to split his time between us. The judge ended up ruling in favor of shared custody, but with more time at my place. Tammy was furious, said I'd turn the kids against her. But that wasn't true. They just saw things for what they were. After the court, things calmed down a bit. My kids started asking more about our dad, about his home country. They even started learning the language, said they wanted to visit one day, see where their grandpa grew up. And me, I'm just trying to be there for them, help them through this. It's not easy, but we're getting by one day at a time. Thanks for reading. My half-brother took advantage of my help and spread lies about me. So I cut him off and showed him what losing family really feels like. My 36-year-old half-brother, Sean, has a long history of drinking in excess. He got his act together for a while after his daughter, who is 5 years old, was born. But after he broke up with her mother, his drinking became more out of control than ever. He lost his job, his license, custody, and eventually his home. I tried to help him by getting him health insurance and bringing him to a detox center. When he left detox, I helped him with his supervised visitations with his daughter and gave him a list with all kinds of resources to help him maintain his sobriety. Unfortunately, he did not take advantage of any of them, and he lost his visitation privileges shortly thereafter. I then got him into a 90-day rehab facility and told him that was the last time I was going to help him. He still had his list of resources for when he got out. Apparently, he checked himself out after less than 30 days and promptly showed up at his child's mother's house and demanded to see his daughter. She refused, so he decided to drink a fifth of vodka and drive, literally like that Eminem song Stan, with no license, no insurance, an expired inspection sticker, and then attempted to resist arrest when he, of course, got pulled over. He called me from jail the other day and asked me to bail him out, let him stay with me, and help him set up visitation with his daughter again at my house. I told him I'm not doing any of the above and not to call me again until he starts doing right by himself and his daughter. My husband supports me 100% and says that if I did help him, I'd just be enabling him. But Sean's mother called me sobbing and said that it's not being able to see his daughter that is causing him to make such poor life choices, and begged me to reconsider. I told her that I'm sorry, but I don't see it that way. He lost the right to see his daughter because he was already making poor life choices. She said that she never knew me to be so heartless and hung up on me. Am I the idiot? ETA to answer some of the questions in the comments. I am also a recovering alcoholic. I tried to demonstrate to him how much my life has improved in the years since I quit drinking, but he mostly just made excuses about how it was so much easier for me. It wasn't, except that I managed to get my act together before I ended up losing everything and everyone. It was and is still one of the hardest things I have ever done. His mother is disabled and on a fixed income, so she really can't help him much. She actually spent what little savings she had on the rehab place I got him into. My husband and I agreed that we would not pay for anything for him, and we haven't. His mom and stepdad let me stay with them a lot when I was in active addiction, so I think she feels that I owe her this, but I really cannot put my own family through this. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You are not the jerk, NTA, for not doing what his own mother refuses to do for him. He has made his bed and has refused to take any responsibility for himself. Rehab has a very low success rate if the individual doesn't really want to try or is forced to do it. Sean's mother is delusional. Maybe that contributes to Sean's worldview, thinking that it's the lack of visitation that has caused this because he earned visitation and then lost it by reverting to his old ways. He needs help, but he has to really want it, not just say he wants it. Comment 2. Absolutely not the jerk, NTA. You have gone above and beyond the call of duty with Sean. He hasn't used the opportunities he's been given to get his life together, and that's on him. It's a sad situation, but it's one he's going to have to turn around himself. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So after I refused to bail Sean out, things went from bad to worse. His mom, who's been on my case since I said no, decided to take matters into her own hands. She drained her account, bailed him out, and guess where he ended up? On my doorstep, drunk in the middle of the night, yelling about how I owed him a chance to fix his life. My husband was furious, and I was just done. I didn't let him in. I told him to leave or I'd call the cops. He left, but not before making a scene that woke up the entire neighborhood. A week later, I heard from a mutual friend that Sean had been in a bar fight. He put someone in the hospital and was now facing attack charges. His mom called me, crying, saying it was my fault for not helping him when he needed it. I couldn't believe it. I was angry, but more than that, I was tired. Tired of the blame, the guilt trips, and the chaos he brought into my life. Then the family friend who told me about the bar fight also mentioned that Sean had been spreading rumors about me. Said I was the one with the drinking problem, that I was the one who couldn't be trusted. That was the last straw. I confronted him over the phone, and he didn't even deny it. He just laughed and said I deserved it for turning my back on him. I hung up and decided that was it. I blocked his number, told his mom I couldn't be part of this anymore, and asked her to respect my decision. It's been quiet since then. No late-night disturbances, no calls from his mom. My husband and I have been able to breathe again. But I won't lie, it's hard. I keep thinking about what could happen to Sean, but I also remember that I can't set myself on fire to keep him warm. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!